Hello and welcome to Alive with Amanda. Today we're going to be talking about group practices and one metric I want group practice owners to start to think about. So often I see people talk about the percentage or like the flat rate or how much they're going to be paying their employees or contractors. And I think that number is a little short-sighted because when I do consulting with people, what I find is it doesn't necessarily, I'm going to make a pivot on that, but it isn't necessarily what you pay them percentage-wise to keep your clinicians, right? It doesn't matter if you pay them 50, 60, 70% sometimes. It really depends on how much they're going to make in a month. I mean, let's just say a small group practice that's private pay only, if they pay 50-50, doesn't sound that great, but if their fee is $200 an hour, that sounds great, $100 an hour. But if you only see 3 clients in a week, that's not enough money. That's not enough money to keep people. And so there's usually 2 problems that group practice owners face, either not enough clients or not enough clinicians. If you're in the not enough clinician part of your group practice phase, like that can be really scary because you have so many calls coming in and not enough clinicians. But it's equally or probably more scary to have too many therapists working for you and not enough clients coming in. And that's probably the number one problem I see facing group practice owners right now is that they don't have enough of a call flow for the number of therapists that they have. And so let's say a solo practice can build up with 5 calls a week. Like that's a pretty solid number. You get 5 calls a week, 2, it's not your ideal client, and 3 you book, right? Like that's a 60% conversion rate. Like sounds good. You can build up a great practice. Then you get full and then you need to hire somebody. You don't need to go from 5 to 10 calls. Like that is the fallacy that people think, or they think, oh, these other 2, I'm just going to schedule with my person. Like, no, you need way more than 10 calls then. You probably need closer to 15 calls, right? Because you're filling somebody else up and you're making sure that they're growing. So you have to account for attrition and you have to account for growth. And then if you add another person on, you have to account for their attrition and their growth. And so the numbers sort of like exponentially go up. I can tell you for our offices, we have 4 to 5 office suites. Like that's a good way for us to share our metrics. And so we can do it by clinician, but some people are full-time, some people are part-time. But to fill up 4 offices, we look at about 120 calls a month. So 120 leads a month or so. Some calls might not directly be leads, but let's just give it a nice safe number, 100. So we are looking for 25 calls per office. So if there was 1 full-time person, that's 25 calls a month for 1 person. Because again, you have to filter out schedules, you have to filter out insurance, you have to filter out niche. And so you need a lot of calls. I think people are really, really surprised when I tell them how many calls we get into our practice. And I understand we're an insurance-based practice, and I understand that we have a wide variety of people, so we have a lot of niches, but I stand by that in that if you have a group practice and you have more than like 1 person, right? Like, so if you want to hire 4 or 5 people, you have a 4 or 5 office suite, you really want to build people up, or you even have a virtual practice and you really, really want to build up like 4 or 5 people. And 4 or 5 people is like really where you can start to see where you're making money and this is worth it for the group practice owner. Then you need a lot of calls. You need a lot of calls. Yes, there are some practices out there that are amazing at marketing and they get 1 call and they convert and their conversion rate's like 80, 90%. You have to know your personal conversion rates for your practice. You have to know your location. And so I would absolutely start tracking that, how many calls you get in, how many leads you got, and how many you converted. So you know your conversion rates. So then that way you can expand on that. And then you can know exactly how many calls that you need to get. And then if you're not getting enough calls, you need to up your marketing efforts. And if you're getting too many calls, you can downgrade your marketing efforts or hire. So let's talk about hiring for a minute. You don't want to hire too fast and you don't want to hire too slow. Our general rule of thumb is that we hire when our clinicians are 70% full in a particular office, because then we know that we are not going to be able to fill up all the calls that we get. And so we did, for our Pembroke Pines office, hire 4 full-time people. We hired 3 full-time people basically all at once. And that was a really big risk, but we knew that office was going to be busy. We knew we were going to get a lot of calls, and people are building up like over the last month or two. And we've gotten about 150 calls or so that first month that we opened in our new location. We did that through Google AdWords and a Google My Business listing and having a specific page for that location. And so that's our strategy on what we did, but we knew that location was going to be busy. Now the clinicians are getting to be 70% full. We're looking to hire another person. We'll probably hire closer to September 1, given that it's the middle of the month, or even in a month from now, to make sure that we don't hire too many people. We don't want to over promise the new people, and we want to make sure that our old people are taken care of and that people are getting leads. And there's a variety of reasons why people do and don't get leads and don't get full, but that's generally the method to our madness of how we hire. And so I'm going to give you a few more tips on what to do then if you do need more calls for your practice. But first, I want to thank our sponsor, TherapyNotes. If you're looking for an electronic health record that's really full service, one that can help you run your group practice, whether it's in person or telehealth, they have a free telehealth option. Whether it's private pay, you can take credit cards directly through there. The reconciling is so easy. Or you can bill insurance, still take credit cards for copays and your private pay clients. I love TherapyNotes for my group practice because of the functions around reporting. I'm able to find reports so easily. I'm able to really track metrics and know all of the things going on with the session totals, revenue per clinician, revenue by location. And so I highly recommend you check out TherapyNotes. So think about your group practice. Are you getting enough calls? If you're not getting enough calls, you need to up your marketing strategies. Put a Google AdWords campaign out, up your budget for AdWords, come up with better keywords, work on your website, do a social media campaign, go to networking events. Look at your market, right? Like, I think that's one thing people don't do. There's a couple people that I know that are in smaller markets and it's just going to take longer to build. Make sure that you're in a market that needs your services. Are you catering to the market that you're in? If you do accept insurance, are you accepting the insurance of the local school board, of the local hospitals, of the fire stations, like of the municipalities, right? So you can ensure that you are getting those referrals. You don't want to just take the highest paying insurance, but nobody's on that. We found that in a couple of areas. We want to make sure we're really taking the insurance of the people in the community so we can help serve them. So I hope this was helpful. I'll see you soon, everybody. Bye.